Welcome to the Old Man of Three Things with JJ Reddick and the Dunker Spot, Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones. Fellas, first of all, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are recording this on December 26th. We are putting this out on New Year's. So just wanted to wish you both happy holidays. Because we are recording this a few days in advance, I thought today we could each give a bold prediction for 2024 in the NBA. I'm going to go last because I am really, really under the weather. Had to fight through some stuff yesterday on the broadcast, and energy's a little low. So I'm going to need you guys to carry me. Nekias, why don't we start with you? What is your bold prediction for 2024?
Sure, we can knock this one out. Also, missed an opportunity to say, you're such a gracious host. You're going to let the guests go first. I appreciate the transparency, though. That's a nice touch. That's a nice touch. I guess my bold prediction heading into 2024, I think Jalen Johnson saves this season for the Hawks. We're going to go off the top rope. As of recording, 5 games under 500. I think Atlanta's going to finish at 500 or better with Jalen Johnson back in tow. And I think it's for two reasons. One, he is very good and he's very important to what they're doing on both sides. He complements Trae Young very well. He's going through some second spectrum stuff earlier. Top pick and roll pairing in the NBA, minimum of 100 picks, is Trae Young and Jalen Johnson. Obviously, Trae Young can boogie against anyone. Deep pull-up shooter, can get to his floater, can get downhill, can draw fouls, can make all the passes you need him to. Jalen Johnson has become a much better shooter, can knock down those pops, also a very good driver, good decision-making downhill. So those two play off of each other very well. And then you think about defensively how aggressive Atlanta has generally been this year. Jalen Johnson has done a lot of work cleaning things up on the back end when he's directly involved, getting up high and getting deflections, or when he's the low man on the back end, cleaning up some stuff at the rim. The Atlanta Hawks, with both of those guys on the court this year, per clean the glass, which filters out garbage time. A 121.4 offensive rating with Trae and Jalen on the court together. That would be around 4th right now, slightly ahead of Milwaukee. A 115.7 defensive rating, which would be around 15th in the league with those two on the floor. And this is over 700 possessions, so this isn't super tiny sample size stuff. The pick and roll defense overall is better with Jalen on the floor. Even when Trae is directly involved in pick and roll, there's a massive split between what those per possession numbers are when Jalen's on the court versus when they're off. I think with more Jalen Johnson, you add in the shooting, you add in the secondary playmaking, you add in just the general size and ground coverage he brings defensively. I think Atlanta's going to continue to score at a high enough level, and I think the defense gets better enough to where they are able to really punch for like a top 8 seed.
Man, this is good synergy. I did not know illness could travel through these conferences. I need you to get rid of the Hawks illness. My brother, just give it up. New year, new me. Write it down.
I'm just saying. I think Jalen's going to be very important. Also, before I pass it off, and before I get yelled at for my bold
there's no passing it off, Nekias. There's no passing it off. We are going to stay on this because I have some follow-up questions on this.
I'm going to let you roll. I'm going to rush you.
But you go. I just have some follow-up questions.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to point out, after a cold start to the year, weird shooting start to the year for Trae Young, he has been incredible for over a month now. In fact, as we record on December 26th, he's riding a 7-game streak of at least 30 points and 10 assists. And he's knocking down over 47% of his threes on over 11 attempts during this stretch. He's averaging 31 and 11 since November 21st, which signified the first game that he made more than half of his shots in a game. Again, cold start. First 11 games, he just did not do it. 39% on twos, 28% on threes on high volume. Since that date, 31.2 points per game, 52% on twos, the floater's back, the pull-ups are back, 44% on threes on over 10 attempts. And he's diming all over the place. He is still an offense onto himself, and quiet is kept. And however much you care about it, he is having the best defensive season of his career, in my opinion. So, I think there's enough of a foundation. Again, it's going to be led by the offense. I don't think the Atlanta Hawks are going to start defending like the 07 or 08 Celtics. I'm not ridiculous. But, if you're telling me top 5 offense, 19th or 20th on defense, I think Atlanta can make a run the second half of the year. And now you can yell at me.
There's no yelling involved. There's no yelling. If I start yelling, I will start coughing. So I'm just gonna.
I want to just touch on something. First of all, let me just start here. Bold take, and you're talking about a potential play-in team. So I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting from you, but given that your first rant ever on this podcast was about Charlotte's pick and roll defense when they were about 25 games under 500, I just appreciate everything you bring to basketball discourse. I love Jalen Johnson. I think he's been a stud this year. Well-reasoned, bold prediction, all of that. But there's one problem I have with what you said, and that's just, you said Jalen Johnson saves Atlanta's season and they get back to 500.
Is that what Quinn Snyder and Trae Young are going to be excited about? A 500 season? The play-in?
Like, in a vacuum, I don't think that should be the case in light of them being just solidly under right now. And we are within like a 48 to 72 hour window in which both Mark Stein and Sean Sharani have dropped, hey, DeJounte Murray might be available. I think we are reaching this ain't working, let's shave some money territory for Atlanta. So within that context, if they're able to reel off like a 4-win and 6 stretch or something like that, that was where it's like you might be able to save this build and make a run.
Steve, do you have any thoughts about this bold prediction? There's one other thing I want to talk about, but it's sort of an anecdotal topic related to the Hawks. So I want to let Steve jump in here first.
Well, I think Jalen Johnson is very important for the Atlanta Hawks. I do believe, as Nekias stated, his ability to play that 4 position helps them both offensively and defensively. I don't know if it's going to save their season because of the way the Eastern Conference is kind of set up right now. Like, if Jalen Johnson comes back, are they better than this version of the Bulls? Are they that much better than the Nets? Are they better than the Pacers? Are they not just like this level below the Pacers right now? I just don't know. Like, does Trae Young have a stronger all-star case than Derek White?
Oh, wow. You want to go there.
That's funny. That is funny. In my opinion,
I think Trae Young has a better all-star case than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. See, like for me, Steve, we did our awards episode, I guess like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago at this point, all-star episode rather. And like I had Trae on and I had Derek White in my short list. So by virtue of that, like I think the case is better. And he's been playing even better since then, as has Derek White, to be fair. But I am fine with planting my flag on I'm just higher on Trae than a lot of people are right now. And so like I just have to hold the L if necessary.
Okay, I want to go back to the save the season comment because I want to bring in the Knicks to this conversation. Mm-hmm. So when we look at the Eastern Conference right now, obviously we have the Heat, Sixers, Bucks, Celtics, right? And then the Knicks playing well. Mitchell Robinson out for the season with this ankle surgery. I don't think that they can hold up the rest of the year at this pace, and certainly not in the playoffs. And I, by the way, I love Hartenstein, but I just don't know if that's like a winning formula for what I think this team wants to accomplish. So you would assume at some point they try to fill that, that spot, the Mitchell Robinson loss, because I think he was playing great defensively, just a monster offensive rebound, all that stuff. Potentially that injury and the Nets just being the Nets at times, right? The Pacers with the unreliable defense, sometimes looking like they're not even trying. Atlanta could get into that 6th spot. But again, a first round exit. I just think when we talk about like the Hawks directionally is like, how do we get back to 2021? And was 2021 just a simple aberration? Was it just an anomaly? Was it, a whirlwind of things coming together? Because I just don't see a path right now where they're anything but a first round team. Am I wrong in that?
I don't think that's unfair at all. And like, if it's just me, like I prioritize keeping Trae because he's really freaking good. And I think between Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu, like those are probably the three guys where I'm saying, okay, under no circumstance, unless for whatever reason, like Luka becomes available or something crazy, but under no circumstance am I moving either of these three guys. Everyone else is right price adjacent. Like I don't think this Hawks roster is ready to contend, to be clear. And so directionally, like it's probably better for them. Like I would have to go back and look at their pick situation, considering what they gave for DeJounte and stuff. But like it feels better for them to just let's reconfigure some things. Let's see if we can hit something else in the draft and then try to push forward from there. I don't know if Atlanta is at that point. And so if they're trying to push to, we just committed all this stuff to DeJounte, we haven't moved Clinton yet, we still have these vets in the room, et cetera. We're not playing the rookies that we just drafted. Like if that's where they're at, and we can agree or disagree if they should be there, then I think they're going to prioritize time to trying to save this iteration and give it, kind of similar to Chicago, actually. Just one last run with this group, and then we'll hit the offseason and see what we really need to do.
Or what Toronto has done now for 3 straight years. Did I say that? I'm sorry. Steve, why don't you jump in here with your bold prediction of 2024? I love it. I love it though. It's a great, I applaud you, Nekias. I applaud you. I love it.
Well, in honor of JJ Redick scoring 21 points on January 1st in 2012, I did kind of have a list, but I'm going to start with this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win the MVP. The Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid discourse will lead to a split, and that will also lead to an opt-out, or it will just become a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic debate, and Shai will win that out.
Wow.
I like it.
Wow. That is a bold prediction.
You said you wanted bold. I came with the goods. What y'all think of that one? I got more. I have
a very quick question for you, Steve.
What's up?
If Shai does, in fact, win the MVP, will you be happier that you are right or more annoyed by how I will act if Shai wins MVP?
The answer is yes. It's a very strong yes. Like 7 emojis. Yeah. Fire. Okay. Yeah. Because you're going to do cartwheels and maybe I'm coping. I don't know.
All right. So you guys may not know this, and I may have mentioned this in passing to you on one of the podcasts, but I said before the season that myself and Tommy, we were going to stay away from any MVP talk until the 50 game mark.
My bad.
Because it got too much last year. And now we're like talking MVP on these debate shows 5 games into the season. And it's just like pointless, whatever. However, because this is the bold prediction of 2024, we are allowed to talk about the MVP. So let's sort of break down, because I think Shai obviously has a case right now for MVP. Let's break down what it would take outside of the split vote with Jokic and Embiid and the discourse around that. Let's talk about that. I think OKC likely would have to be in the top 2 in the West. I think with the way Denver's starters are playing right now, Murray yesterday in that Christmas Day game looked like playoff Jamal Murray has for the last 5 games. I think assuming health with them, they're going to be in the top 2 or 3 in the West. Minnesota still playing well. And if OKC ends up sort of in that 2 or 3 spot, Shai has a case. The problem is, if Jokic also is in that 2 or 3 spot, all right, how are you sort of delineating between the 2 cases? I think with Embiid in particular, Philly, I think there's momentum there. Let's just talk narrative for a second. There's momentum there because of the expectations, right? Everybody expected Milwaukee to be awesome. Everybody expected Boston to be awesome. And those teams have been really good. Boston in particular, with their starting lineup, 15-1 as of this recording. The expectation around the Sixers with the nonsense and the drama in training camp and then Harden getting traded, I don't think that they were expected to be as good as they are, 20-5 as of this recording with Embiid. So as long as they're playing well, it's going to be hard to take away Embiid's case. So it reminds me a little bit of last year, where it's like, I think Shea is clearly the third guy to me right now in this MVP discussion. And if you guys disagree with that, I'm welcome to talk about that. But I think for me, he's the third guy right now. It reminds me a little bit of last year, where, when I had the vote at the end, it's like Embiid, Jokic, Giannis. I ultimately went with Giannis. I broke it down on the podcast. But I'm just trying to envision a scenario. So talk me through this. Envision a scenario where, beyond just a split vote about the Embiid, Jokic back and forth in the last 3 MVP votings, them going 1-2, how does Shea get the MVP?
Well, I'll go first. I know Nekias has a whole lot to say. My thing is, it's Embiid's right now, because we are, 26 days in this month of December. This man's still averaging 40 points.
I agree with you. As of right now, I have December 26th. I agree with you.
40 points a night in the whole month. I think I go back to the Chicago game, where Joel Embiid played well and the Sixers lost. And the Sixers have some setbacks, or the league catches up to them, and maybe they don't fall to the 4 seed, but the winning isn't as much. I think things move on. I do agree. I think OKC does.
I want to clarify that. You're saying they still are the 3rd seed, but maybe there's more separation.
Yes. So maybe
Boston, Milwaukee sort of separate 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
So it's less, hey, we're a game and a half behind Milwaukee, and more, we're 5 or 6 games out. Let's say hypothetically. OKC would have to be the 2 seed to me. I think there would be momentum for Shea if OKC is that 2 seed, based on expectations and based on the workload that he has for that offense. I think it's splitting hairs because of how much Jokic drives Denver, but there's always, to me, an unknown quality or unknown quantity where we didn't expect you to do this, and for you to do this night in, night out, and drive the way that he does, improve the way that he has in the mid-range, to go from 47, 48% to in the 50s on volume, to be able to combat defenses who still, and this is, Nekias will tell you, this was my take, like, hey, eventually the league is going to catch up to Shea. They're going to throw something at him, more help. And he's been like, that's fine. I will continue to drive. And if I see y'all showing help early, I will just step back and shoot. And I have no problem doing either thing. Y'all have not figured me out yet. And that's where, in my mind, I'm like, okay, if OKC's number 2, no one saw it coming, he's still performing at this high level, I feel that momentum might be stronger than a Jokic who's doing incredible things. But there's a known quantity to that, is where my boldness comes in. Okay. And so if Embiid and the Sixers take a step back, OKC gets that 2 seed, I think he rises above.
Okay. All right. That's reasoned. Nekias, what is your sort of take on all of this?
I don't think that's too far-fetched. Like, it is bold, just considering how well Embiid and Jokic have played, and just generally what the discourse has been. But like, I could get there to Shea. Like, I think that'd be a fun pick. I'm with both of you guys. Like, he's probably number 3 for me right now. In terms of trying to envision what the Shea case would look like, I think just very quickly, like, I would go to some of the on-off stuff, depending on how much the voters care about that kind of thing, and to where, like, if you go to PvP stats, they allow you to filter with just the games that player has played, so you don't get this guy missed 8 games, the team was off or whatever. And so looking at that, Phillies are plus 13.2 with Joel on the floor, and they're plus 13.9 with him off, which speaks to how well Tyrese Maxey has played and how well that bench has played. So it's not you shouldn't denigrate Joel off of that. But if you're getting into this team can't survive without what this guy is doing, you can at least argue, okay, Tyrese Maxey plus bench has been able to carry the load to a degree that Joel Embiid has not seen in his career to this point. Meanwhile, Shea plus 12 with him on, they're minus 6 with him off. And then Jokic, you still have plus 12 with him on, minus 12 with him off in terms of on-off stuff. And so from there, again, like plus 13 for Embiid, plus 12 for Shea, that isn't that big of a difference. So if you're assuming like OKC finishes top 2 and Philly's in 3rd or something like that, and then you factor in the defense, in which I think Jokic has been fine this year. I think Shea has a fringe all-defense case. I think Joel Embiid should be in the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. But we have had the stretches where Joel's just kind of chilling defensively. Not that it still can't be effective because of how fearsome of a rim protector he is. But if he loses some of the loudness with his defensive player of the year case, and you have Shea leading the league in steals on top of dropping 30 efficiently for a team that a lot of people didn't anticipate to be this high up in standings. Like, we had the conversation earlier in the year where you asked what would OKC's high end be for me. And I was like, I think they can get home court. And I have somehow undersold that with how they played so far this year. And so you put all of that together.
By the way, it seemed like a step, not a step out on a ledge, but it seemed like a bold-ish prediction at the time.
Yeah.
Like that was like, to me, that aligned with where I thought their ceiling could be. And that they're closer to it. If you know what I mean by it. They're closer to it than I even realized. And they're fucking awesome. They're like nearly there.
Yeah. So you're gonna end up with a case where Shea has the scoring stuff and the playmaking. He's gonna have the efficiency. You're going to have the all defense case. You're going to have the on-off stuff. Like, you're looking at, if you want to look at like EPM right now, like number 1 is Joel Embiid, number 2 is Shea. And so any sort of slippage from Embiid, or, we're removing the discourse portion of it right now. But if you bring that back into the table, it becomes a little bit more realistic that Shea could get this thing.
I do wonder, this is part of the reason I've realized, and we've talked a ton this season already. I've done it with Legler, I've done it with RJ, is like the importance of just sample size. I think one of the things that is really important with sample size, particularly with the Sixers, and this is not a knock because I just said Joel Embiid is my MVP so far. One of the things with the Sixers that I think that can be a little noisy with some of the plus minus on-offs, they played some bad teams in this stretch. They played some bad teams. They've had some massive blowouts. The other thing that I wanted to just sort of get to a little bit is Maxey. And I know he had, yesterday he had an awful game in Miami. He has been awesome throughout. So he got off this great start and there really hasn't been a drop-off. And I wonder to some degree, in this sort of best case for Shea scenario, if Maxey is still a top 10 player in EPM or all of these, advanced individual stats, does that in any way, shape, or form hurt Joel's case?
Ooh, I want to go quick before Nekias goes. Okay. I might say that Joel Embiid plus the Sixers moving more and him having more assists, and you can visibly see the improvement passing-wise from him, even if sometimes it's a byproduct of Maxey, may counter that to a degree.
Yep. Well, that's why I asked the question, because I was gonna answer my own question, but I wanted to let you go. I'm gonna answer my own question in a second. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. I think that's a good point from Steve, first and foremost. I think on a very basic level, you do have another guy who can just take on the offensive load in Philadelphia. And I think within that very specific context, like, Maxey may hurt. Whereas in OKC, ask a Thunder fan how they have felt about the non-Shea minutes this year. And this is with Chet being awesome. And I think what's impressed a lot of people, at least for me anyway, with Chet, is he looks so much better as a driver than I anticipated this year based on some of the stuff we saw in Summer League, and the handle's just a lot tighter, et cetera. You're still not running the offense through Chet in a traditional manner yet, to where he can just be a second guy that can just lift things up. And frankly, like, the Josh Giddey-led units just have not worked because the scoring has regressed, among other things. And so that's where, again, it goes back into the on-off stuff where OKC just kind of dies with Shea off the floor. And so if you're comparing like what they get from Chet/Giddey running things when Shea's on the bench versus Tyrese in this bench, and they're still blitzing teams, I think Tyrese would kind of hurt the Joel Embiid MVP case in that manner.
Okay. I get it. And I would answer my question with Maxey's awesome, but I also think there is an element of Joel Maxey partnership elevating Maxey even more than I think what we all thought he could be. Mm-hmm. And I had said, going back to last spring when they lose in the second round, I had said, like, I'd move on from James Harden. This is not going to work. See how good Maxey can be. He's better than and I thought he was going to be better than he was his first 3 years. He's better than I thought. I mean, he's awesome. Like, he's awesome. I love him. Like, he's awesome. All right, guys, hang with me for a second. This is a random one, and I wanted to go a number of ways, and I actually, truthfully, one of the ideas I had was to go Shea winning the MVP as my bold prediction. And I'm glad I didn't go with that. So my bold prediction, maybe this isn't bold, but this is my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that the Los Angeles Clippers make the conference finals, but lose. They're going to be in the conference finals. Like I actually, right now in the Western Conference, I'm like, if you said to me outside of Denver, what team do you like to make the conference right now? I would say, I'd probably say the Clippers. People were making the strongest takes 3, 4, 5 games in on that team. And they're 14-5. They had a 14-3 run before they lost to OKC in Boston. James Harden has embraced being that third guy. Kawhi and PG's efficiency has gone up over the last 9 games. They got Leonard, George, Harden at 44% over the last 19, and Norman Powell all shooting over 40%. Like, they're really good. Mm-hmm. They're really good. So, like, Jason Gallagher and I were talking about this morning. I think it's really hard in the NBA to have absolute takes. Absolute takes. Like my take last night, Derek White is an all-star. Like, there's nothing absolute about that. I think there should be 15 roster spots. I'll say it every time. There should be 15 roster spots. 4% of the NBA makes the all-star game. There were times in the NBA where 20% of the league made the all-star game. It's harder than ever to make an all-star game. Just based on numbers. Still at 12 for whatever reason. Still at 12. I don't know why. Derek White is an all-star. Okay. That's not absolute. We were talking about Trae Young earlier. Trae Young deserves to be an all-star. He's been awesome. Scotty Barnes has been awesome. I'm going to go on a whole thing later today. It'll be out by the time this comes out. It's about Derek White and like why I think he has an all-star case. Guess what? Scotty Barnes also has a great all-star case when we start going into the advanced numbers. Like, nothing is absolute in the NBA. And the incredible thing is, I could go stand for a player because of how he's playing. You could go stand for a team because of how they're playing. And 2 weeks later, they suck. They suck. That's the crazy thing about the NBA. That's why we need 50 or 60 games. Or hear me out, up to this point, right? Up to this point. Let's not be so absolute. I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it. Let's not be so absolute.
That's tremendous work to backdoor yet another bold take in to drop this to 50 to 60 game. That's good stuff. Just effortless. Also, related note, is the actual bold take that is just James Harden's an all-star?
Say it again.
I said, does that just wind up being the actual bold take? James Harden makes the all-star team again?
Did you say that?
From me? How did we get there?
No, I'm just thinking about the Clippers and how well he's played.
I had to fight you on that last year.
There were like 3 or 4 bridges you crossed there. There were 3 or 4 bridges. I'm not even sure how you crossed those bridges that quickly.
I'm just tossing it out there. So it's all good. Holiday cheer and all that good stuff.
Wow.
Fellas, I can't wait for the backlash of this episode. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Appreciate it, fellas. I'm going, hopefully, healthy tomorrow. Be out a little vacation for me and my family. Appreciate you guys. One of the greatest things about the last year and change is having you guys on board with 342 and us being a part of the Dunker Spot, you being a part of Old Man and 3. Can't thank you guys enough. Happy New Year. Blessings for you in 2024.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. Always gracious to be here.
We appreciate you. Enjoy it. Get some rest. Enjoy the vacay.